Hello. 2 months ago I sowed this early potato in this pot. It's a potato called Home Guard, and this pot has stood outdoors ever since. Now apparently in this the year 2015 we've just had the sunniest April on record. Well, I would add to that, I think we've probably had the windiest April on record, and certainly the beginning of May, which it is now, has been extremely windy, and that's one of the reasons why I'm shooting quite a few of these videos indoors. Not only do I have to contend with road traffic noise, I garden quite close to a busy road, but the winds have been something else. And if I turn this round slightly, I think you'll see, maybe not, there is on these newer shoots there is some wind damage, but I'm quite pleased with the way these potatoes are going. 2 months in the pot. Now then, in 2 months time, there or thereabouts depending on the weather, we'll be emptying these pots out and we'll be eating these potatoes. And when I did this last year and I emptied the pots out and I harvested and ate the potatoes, it occurred to me that I was accumulating empty pots and lots of spent compost, and we still had 2 summer months to go and I had nothing to go in them. It was something I'd totally overlooked, but fortunately I got some leaks given, so I put the compost back in the pot. I think I may have thrown in some bloodfish and bones, some sort of fertiliser, planted the leeks and got 10 great leeks from the pot. So there's a video on the channel that shows you that if you want to fish it out if you haven't seen it. So it is possible within the growing season to get 2 crops from 1 pot. So we got a crop of early potatoes, then we put the compost and fertiliser back in the pot, planted up some leeks, and although they're seen more as a winter veg, they grew into the winter months, and then I harvested 10 leeks from the pot. In fact, another thing I did, which I'll add now because it's interesting, some leeks that I grew in the pots that overwintered, I also had some leeks in the raised bed, and it was impossible to get the leeks out of the raised bed. The raised bed was frozen solid. You would have needed a jackhammer to get them out. It was impossible. And the pot, which was standing on the patio, was also frozen solid. So what I did was I took the pot indoors, stood it in the garage overnight, and the next day I emptied those leeks out, no bother at all. The ground in the raised bed was still solid, but I could harvest leeks, something you won't do down the allotment unless you're growing in pots or unless you've got a jackhammer. Anyway, let's get to the real crux of this video. So I know that in 2 months time when I empty these out, I will have some leeks and I will plant this pot up again. But I also thought that with those 2 months there might be an opportunity to grow something else in these pots. So let me just show you this. This is Home Guard, remember. You may have seen this before, maybe not. 2 months ago when I sowed that Home Guard and all the other early seed potatoes, I set some aside. Some of those seed potatoes are in this box, and this box has been in the fridge for those 2 months. Now I don't want to keep this out of the fridge too long, but I've got 5 different seed potatoes in here, and the reason I've got them in the polythene bags is because they're all a different variety. Normally you wouldn't want to keep things in polythene bags in fridges because they can tend to sweat, and well, for what I'm trying to do, I wouldn't want that to happen. Okay, so this is Home Guard. This set was purchased at the same time as the set that was in that pot you've just looked at. So if this set had been planted in a pot, it would be a potato plant growing on now. But that's what it is. Okay, I'm trying to arrest the growth of those chits. I don't want this potato to chit up much more than it has at the moment. And in fact, I may actually knock some of those chits off at some point, because I do know, and I have proved it, and there is a video on the channel that will show you what happens when you knock chits off a potato. That wouldn't concern me. In fact, I think there's one, yeah, in fact, we've lost one by accident now, but that doesn't concern me. And if you have a look at the video and knocking chits off a potato, that'll explain why this doesn't bother me. So what are we doing here? Okay, well, these have been in the fridge for 2 months, in the cold and in the dark. And what I'm looking to do is, when the potatoes come out of the pots in 2 months' time, is to plant these potatoes up. So I'm delaying them deliberately, and I'm hoping that in 2 months' time we'll harvest potatoes and we'll plant potatoes. Okay, and so we're attempting to get 2 crops of potatoes from the same compost in the same pot in one growing season. That's 2 crops of early potatoes from the same pot using the same compost in the same growing season. Now, I've never done it before, and I don't know that it can be done, and I haven't seen it done. But that's a good enough reason for having a go, isn't it? That's a good enough reason for having a go. If you've never seen it done and you don't know it can be done, why not do it? Why not try it? So here at Homegrown Veg, we like our experiments, as you know. We've got a few on the go. We'll pop this back in the fridge. We'll see these in a couple of months' time again, when the other ones are being harvested. And we'll plant these up and see if we can get that second crop of potatoes from the same pot in the same growing season. This is Homegrown Veg, signing out.